Hey guys, I hope everyone's well. In this video I'm going to be talking about booking budget city breaks. In the last video we talked about budget flights, we talked about why they're so cheap, how they work and how to take full advantage of them. So this is just kind of like a continuation on from that. First off, booking.com is my go-to for hotels, for apartments, for guest houses, for 5-star resorts, hostels, everything I book through booking.com. Not sponsored, just saying that. I've been using them for about 10 years. Greatest thing about booking.com is that you pay on arrival and it's free cancellation. Once you've booked a couple of times with them, you become a Genius member. It's always nice being called a genius. I've never been called a genius in anything else in my life. What that entitles you to is 15% off most of your bookings, as well as free breakfasts and late checkout and early check-in, I think. So that's why I use all the time. Never had any complaints. It just leaves you with so much freedom and flexibility when it comes to booking. I used it one time. I got to the hotel I was staying at. It looked nothing like the pictures at all, and so I left after like 5 minutes. Booked another hotel through booking.com. Explained it to them. Didn't get charged for that first hotel, and yeah, really good customer service as well. A lot of people tend to try and book package deals for city breaks. I've never done it myself. I think the price, even though it seems cheap, doesn't justify what you're spending just for a flight and a hotel, essentially. If it's an all-inclusive holiday, say to a big far-flung destination like the Caribbean or somewhere like that, go for that. They tend to do really, really good prices when it's a chartered flight. Charter flights we'll talk about in another video. Chartered versus scheduled flights, a big difference. I should have brought it up in my other video, but because I make all this up as I go along, and it's all in one take, kind of like 1917, but a bit more intense, sometimes I forget things. But next video is going to be a Q&A, so anything that you think I might have missed or anything you're really interested in, either leave a comment in the YouTube channel or message me on Instagram, Peru to Tokyo, with a couple of underscores between the words. And that's going to be my next video, probably the beginning of next week, I would think. What else about bookings? If I'm traveling by myself as a budget traveler, I usually book a hostel. So cheap everywhere in the world. If we're talking again about Europe, which is what I'm going to focus this video on again, I know we talked about Europe a lot in the last video, but it's a good system to kind of break down. It's easier to understand what with the euro versus the pound, etc. Hostels in Europe tend to get cheaper the further east you go, with maybe the exceptions of Turkey and Greece. They tend to still be pretty high because they're hot, popular destinations. But for instance, I'm going to Latvia and Estonia, and it's going to cost me about £15 a night for a hostel, which is great. There's a good community spirit in hostels. Most of the time you get free breakfast. They offer free tours or discounted tours. So I don't watch the film Hostel and then go, oh, that's what hostels are like, I'm going to get my legs chopped off and fed to us. It doesn't happen. It really doesn't. I don't think, I've never seen it. Everyone I've seen in hostels always has 2 legs. Apart from Sue, remember you were in a wheelchair, but that was a completely different story. Oh dear. But anyway, that's just if I travel by myself. Sometimes I stay in hostels with friends, but most of the time, if there's 2 of us, it works out cheaper again on booking.com to rent an apartment. So me and Callahan, pal, we went to Wrocław in Poland last year or the year before, and it was either going to cost us £15 a night for a hostel for 4 nights, or what's that, 15, 30, 45, 60, my math is terrible, or we could get an apartment for €110 for the whole trip. So we had this nice little 1-bedroom apartment. It had a nice little balcony, and so always consider that. Hotels also tend to be cheaper the further east that you go, but on booking.com, again, with your 15% off, especially once you start getting those perks, you know, you can really find some nice places for cheaper than what you would find on the high street. So that's what I'll talk about for actually booking places. Apart from just because somewhere's a bit cheaper because it's out of town doesn't mean it's going to work out cheaper in the long run, okay? Like, if you're staying an hour outside of the city centre and you've got to get a bus in every day, 1, it's going to take up half your time, and 2, it's going to cost you more money, which you could probably have spent on staying somewhere a bit more central. Yeah. Planning. To and from the airport, I discussed this a little bit in my last video as well. Just make sure that you research how to get from the airport to your accommodation, wherever it is that you might be staying. There's always public transport options, either buses or trains or trams, and these usually drop you off at a main train station in town. That's usually where they head to. Again, especially in Europe, look for discount cards at the airport. A good example of that is Singapore. When we got to Singapore, they do a Singapore card. Now, I can't remember how much we spent on it, but it didn't seem that expensive at all in retrospect. You got 3 days worth of public transportation, and that included the train from the airport to the city centre. We got free pizzas, we got free Singapore slings, and something else, but it was definitely worth it. You can find these discount cards at the airport, or go on Groupon. And Groupon is absolutely full of amazing deals for places that you might want to visit as well. For instance, bus tours, boat tours, restaurants, all up to like 70% off. If you book in advance through Groupon and get your little voucher code, I do that in a lot of cities, and that tends to save me quite much as well. As for saving money when you're actually in the city itself, a lot of museums, a lot of people don't know this, even the big museums in the world do free days or free hours. So the Museum of Modern Art in New York, I believe, is every Friday, 4 o'clock until 8 o'clock at night. It's free entry, so that saves you quite a lot of money. Even the Louvre in Paris, I believe, is the first Sunday every month is free. And the Vatican is every last Sunday of the month. So always do your research if you're into museums. I'm not personally into museums a lot myself, but you can save a lot of money doing that as well. What else? I've actually got notes today. This is the very first time I've ever wrote notes, and now it's just confusing me even more. Let's have a look. Done that. Talked about that. Probably forgot a little bit of that. Oh, here we go. Combining cities. Whenever I travel, I tend to try. I like to have 3 days in the city. You can get a good feel for a place in 3 days, I think. This differs between person to person. Some people can say you can spend a month in a place and you still wouldn't get a good feel for it, but each to their own. I do 3 days, so usually if I'm planning a trip, what I'll do is I use this big map behind me to have a look at where I'm going and then see what's around it to see if I can incorporate another city into that trip. So I've done this countless times. In Prague, I took the train to Vienna for the day. That was really cheap. Lisbon, I took the train to Porto for the day. That was really good. If I'm ever in the US, if I'm in New York or on the West Coast, I try to do New York and Philadelphia because you can get the megabus between New York and Philadelphia for like $3, and it takes about 3 hours. And if I'm in San Diego, which I did last year, I did a day trip to Tijuana, which is cool. You know, it's another country. It's amazing. And I'm doing the same when I go to Tallinn in Estonia next month. I'm taking a ferry to Helsinki, which again, Finland is another country. So it gets more dots on the map, and I get to see another country as well, which is really cool. I think that is everything that I wanted to cover in this video. My next one, again, I mentioned it before, it's going to be a Q&A, because I just seem to throw everything at you and hope that something sticks. And I always finish a video and I'm like, I didn't mention that, man. So this is an opportunity for you guys to get in touch with me, and if you've got any questions, or if you need to know anything, or if you've got ideas for videos in the future, please just let us know, and I'll do that Q&A, on when I find out my day off next week. I'll do it then. But until then, keep traveling, keep being yourself, keep being safe during COVID, and I'll see you all in the next one. And I feel like my arms are very exaggerated today. All right, bye, take care, see ya.